Boogeyman band coming round the bend. Is Boogeyman band. Is Boogeyman band.
Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends, and thanks so much for dropping by the Horror Zone channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Today's video is going back to a series I kind of started back in 2020. It never really became a series. I did just a couple of videos in the fall of 2020. Of course, that was when COVID was running rampant. We were all kind of stuck in our houses, and I was trying to find just some content to do here on the channel that I thought would be interesting and engaging. The videos didn't do very well, but I thought I'd bring it back because I feel like there's more interest in my channel now, because I talk about, it just seems like people are more engaged with what I do now than they were back then about 3 years ago. So I just thought I'd give this another shot. If it doesn't work, then I won't do another one. But this is called Horror Remakes, Necessary or Unnecessary. Now, I know that some people wouldn't constitute this one that I'm going to talk about as a remake, more of a reinterpretation of a novel, source novel. I'm talking about Stephen King's It. And of course, we have the 1990 miniseries, which was directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. And then we have the two films that came out in 2017 and 2019, respectively, directed by Andy Muschietti. And I have already given reviews to both of those films. I love them. And I've talked about how much I love both of them. And I've never really talked about the It miniseries outside of last year. I did do a review of the documentary on the making of that miniseries that my buddy John Campampiano did, and that's called Pennywise: The Story of It. And I love that documentary. I have it digitally. I need to buy a physical copy of it. But for today, I'm just going to be talking about these films. So, of course, the one that I grew up with, this came out my junior year of high school, and then we have, of course, the two films that just came out recently. And we also know that they're going to be continuing this. They are doing a television series that is going to be on Max. It's supposed to come out in 2024. It's called Welcome to Derry. And I know Pennywise is going to play a part of that, but I think it's mostly going to be focusing on other elements of the the sordid past of the town of Derry, which is hinted at in especially in Chapter 1. They haven't said yet if Bill Skarsgård is going to be coming back as Pennywise, but I can't see anybody else playing that part right now. I just really would like to see him come back to the role because I just think he's brilliant. So me talking about this today has nothing to do with the novel. It's only just going to be about the miniseries and these two movies. When I was 16 years old, the miniseries debuted on ABC on November 18th and November 20th of 1990. I remember watching part one really vividly, just because I knew some of the actors that were in it, specifically the older actors. I knew who Annette O'Toole was because I was a fan of 48 Hours, and I had seen her in that, and she's gorgeous, and I still have a crush on her. John Ritter, who I was a huge fan of from Three's Company. I knew Tim Reed. I knew Dennis Christopher I wasn't as familiar with, but I knew Tim Reed. I knew Richard Mazer. Of course, I knew Richard Thomas from The Waltons. I wasn't as familiar with Tim Curry. I had not seen, this is really pretty shocking, but I didn't see Rocky Horror Picture Show until I was older. But I thought Tim Curry was absolutely terrifying, and he did it with a very minimalist approach. Of course, they didn't have the bells and whistles that they had with the films that were going to come out, 27 years later. So it was all in just Tim Curry's mannerisms and the way he presented Pennywise. And again, he just looked like a clown, but there was just something about the way, there's the opening scene with the little girl, and he's hiding behind the sheets, and you kind of see him, and he goes, "Hi." And then all of a sudden you see she smiles at him, and he's smiling when you first see him, and then there's just this sinister look on him. And of course, because they couldn't show any type of child trauma, it was all done through camera tricks and sounds. And it's very effective. And of course, the scene with Georgie is very effective. It's very different. You don't see everything, but it still gets you, and you just still see how Pennywise manipulates these kids into trusting him before feeding on them. And it's really, really scary. And yes, part two of the miniseries wasn't as successful for me, even when I watched it as a young kid. Of course, everybody complains about the spider at the end. And it was kind of underwhelming. I wanted to see a final showdown with Pennywise. I still remember the Monday after part one aired, I remember being in Spanish class, and my friend Stephen Norwood was sitting next to me. and we were talking about it. And we were talking about just how creepy it was in the last shot of part 1, how creepy it was. And was feeling really underwhelmed after seeing part 2, even though I liked it and I liked everybody that was involved in it. And it was still one that I recorded. I remember recording it and watching it many times. It just didn't have the impact on me, that second part, that I wanted it to. But over the years, I've really grown to appreciate, this little miniseries, and hearing more about, what went into it, and just being a huge fan of director Tommy Lee Wallace and a lot of these actors that unfortunately are no longer with us. And just a little fun note, I bought this right after John Ritter died. I didn't have it on DVD, and I remember going to Circuit City and buying it when I found out that he passed away. I miss him dearly. He was one of my favorite. He was one of my heroes growing up. But I still get tremendous joy out of watching this. And I was kind of disappointed when I found out they were going to remake it, because even if I did have a few reservations with some of the way that the characters were depicted and some of the storytelling methods, I still liked it, and I still felt the story's been told. Why do it again? But then you think about it, it hadn't been done in a theatrical... It hadn't been done theatrically. So when it was announced that, I'm going to say it was like early, like 2010, 2009, 2010, there was some rumblings about it. It was getting to the point of there was just so many horror remakes. They had remade everything at that point, and that's why I felt like this was something they were looking to do. They were talking about Pet Sematary at the time too, which wouldn't come out until a couple years after It Chapter 1. But they were starting to talk about remaking Pet Sematary, and I was like going, why? Stop remaking these things that are already good. I remember I was working at Google at the time, and I was on a Google bus, to and from, pretty much. I had a park and ride I would park my truck at, and then I would ride that all the way to the campus in Mountain View. And so the only thing you could really do, because I couldn't take my work with me because I was a contractor, was I would just either read or edit my videos or whatever on the bus. And I remember seeing some of the first images of Pennywise, Bill Skarsgård in the makeup. This was 2016, so this of course was like a year and change before the movie would even come out. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of interested in this. And once the trailers dropped, I said, okay, this looks good. I thought it was smart that the first film, which I didn't know if they were even going to make a second film. I kind of kept thinking, are they going to make another part 2? But I was just really interested in seeing what they were going to do with this, and I felt like it was smart to just make the first movie about the kids. And yeah, when this dropped, I just remember going and seeing it and just being blown away by it. I still think it's a fantastic remake. And whereas like the miniseries was kind of hindered by it being television and what could they show, what couldn't they show, this was all, full court press, no holds barred. This was hardcore, especially the scene with Georgie at the beginning. I mean, it hooks you right away. Bill Skarsgård completely changing the way that Pennywise was depicted. This was not an interpretation of what Tim Curry had done. This really felt like an alien creature pretending to be a clown and not doing a good job at it. And you just saw that in every moment that Skarsgård was delivering his line. Every moment that Skarsgård was on screen. Do I think they used a lot of CGI? Yeah, it didn't bother me though, because if you have compelling characters and a compelling narrative, I feel like you can get away with using a lot of special effects. And even though there is criticism for the second part, I love this one just as much. I felt like there was a tangible connection to the adult actors and the kid actors. And I think that everybody involved in it did a great job. Did we need to see these new interpretations of the source material, that being the Stephen King novel? And in this regard, I do think it worked. I was hesitant. I was apprehensive at first. I wasn't happy that they were going to do it. But having watched both of them, I just think that they were able to give us a more full-fledged story with these kids and these adult actors, as well as the character entity of Pennywise. I have fun going back and revisiting them, and I watch them just as much as I watched that 1990 miniseries. And so, yeah, I think that I can live in a world where these exist, and I think they work really great. And I think it could have just something to do with me personally, because of the fact that I was the age of these kids back in 1989. I mean, they were a little bit younger than me, but I was still around that age, and I went through all the things that they go through, especially, you know, feeling odd and not fitting in with the cool kids, if you want to call it that, and just sort of being an outcast. And I think that's what just sort of drew me to this film, and I just think that everybody involved with these did a great job. And like I said, as much as I love this, I can accept that these exist, and I love all three of them. I really enjoy all of these films, and I'm glad that I have these, and I'm really excited to see what they do with Welcome to Derry, the series that is going to be shooting in the same location where they shot It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And I'm excited to see what that series is going to be like. But yeah, I love both interpretations of Pennywise, and I have both of them. I have the Tim Curry Pennywise, and I have the Bill Skarsgård Pennywise, and I love both of them. I love both interpretations of the character. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Do you like this series? Do you like that I'm talking about horror remakes? Thank you guys so much again for watching. I got a lot more content that I'm working on, and I appreciate all the support. And I hope that everyone enjoyed this, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Fright Fiends, just want to say thank you again for supporting Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. If you're brand new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button down below, hit the bell notification so you're updated every time I drop a new video. I typically do this once or twice a week with new content. I've been doing this for over 11 years, and the horror genre is a passion of mine, and it really means a lot to me that I can share that passion with all of you guys. Thanks so much again for the support, and I'll talk to you again later. Take it easy, stay scared as always.